There is a pattern hiding in plain sight, and almost every man misses it. You read her texts, you reply, you overthink the timing, the words, the emojis, but what you don't see is what her behavior is quietly screaming underneath it all. Because when a woman is thinking about you, deeply, obsessively even, her messages change in very specific ways. Not obvious, not dramatic, subtle. And if you don't catch it in that moment, you miss the window completely. She never opens the same emotional door twice. And I know what you're thinking. Nobody ever taught you this. You were told to just be yourself. Maybe wait a bit before replying. Maybe not come off too eager. Society handed you a script that sounds good on the surface but completely ignores how a woman's mind and body actually respond to emotional tension and curiosity. It's not your fault. It really isn't. But it is your responsibility now that you're seeing it. Because this is the part most men never access, and it's something I've seen over and over again. My name is Luna John, and female psychology has been my world for over a decade. Watching the small signals, the tiny shifts, the things women feel but never say out loud. I'm going to show you 4 specific texting behaviors that reveal when she's not just casually interested, but when you're living in her mind without even realizing it. The last one, almost nobody talks about it. And once you see it, you'll never read a message the same way again. The first one is what I call the unnecessary reach. This is when she texts you without a real reason, no plan, no question that actually needs answering, just something, a random observation, a meme that barely connects to anything. This reminded me of you that doesn't fully make sense. Most men brush this off. They think it's small talk, politeness, boredom. It's not. This is her limbic system pulling her toward you, that emotional center in her brain that drives attachment, curiosity, and desire. It doesn't operate on logic. It operates on feeling. And when you're in her head, she looks for excuses to close the distance, even digitally. So she creates a reason. It could be something like, I just saw the funniest thing, or random question, or even sending you a picture of her coffee with no explanation. On the surface, it looks meaningless, but underneath, it's loaded because a woman who isn't thinking about you doesn't do this. She responds. She doesn't initiate without purpose. Her energy stays contained, but when she's feeling you, really feeling you, her mind looks for openings, little doorways to reconnect, and texting becomes the safest way to do it without risking too much. Here's where most men get it wrong. They treat it like a normal message, short reply, dry tone, maybe even delay it on purpose to play it cool. And just like that, the emotional thread she reached out with, it drops. A grounded man sees this for what it is. He feels the intention behind the message. He doesn't overreact, but he leans in just enough to reward that reach. A playful response, a slightly deeper question, something that keeps the door open instead of quietly closing it. Because in that moment, she's testing the emotional connection. Not consciously, but her nervous system is. And when you meet her there, her body relaxes, dopamine spikes, she associates you with that feeling, but ignore it or mishandle it, and something shifts, subtly, quietly, but permanently. But that's only the beginning, because point number 2, that's where most men lose her completely, and they never even know why. Because when you miss that first reach, she doesn't try the same way again. She adjusts. She pulls back just enough to protect herself. And that's where the second signal starts to show up. And this one is far more revealing. I call it the delayed depth drop. This is when her texting suddenly shifts from light, surface level, to something unexpectedly deeper, but only after a slight pause, not instantly. There's a gap. And that gap matters more than the message itself. Most men see the delay and assume she's losing interest. Maybe she's busy, maybe she's distracted, but then she comes back with a message that feels different, more personal, more open. Maybe she shares something about her day that actually meant something to her. Maybe she reveals a small insecurity or asks a question that goes beyond the usual back and forth. What you're seeing there is internal processing. Her parasympathetic nervous system is calming her just enough to open up, but only after her mind checks if it's safe. If you've handled the earlier interaction well, she leans in. If not, she stays guarded. Women always test emotional safety before emotional investment. So that delay, it's not disinterest, it's evaluation. Now, here's where most men completely lose the moment. They either overreact, coming on too strong, trying to match her depth instantly in a way that feels forced, or they underreact, keeping things shallow because they're afraid to mess it up. Both kill the tension. A grounded man does something different. He meets her depth, but doesn't drown in it. He acknowledges what she shared, reflects it just enough, and then adds a subtle layer of curiosity. Not interrogation, not analysis, just presence. Because when a woman feels emotionally met, but not overwhelmed, oxytocin begins to build, that bonding hormone, the one that makes her feel connected, safe, drawn in. And once that starts, she doesn't want to lose it. If this is hitting different, tap the like button. It helps this reach men who genuinely need it. Now, the third signal, this is where things get even more interesting because it's something women do without even realizing it, and it reveals just how often you're crossing her mind throughout the day. I call it the looping callback. This is when she brings up something you said hours later, maybe even the next day, something small, something you barely remember saying. She'll reference it casually, like, you mentioned that thing earlier, or I was thinking about what you said. That's not casual. That's cognitive looping. Her brain is literally replaying interactions with you over and over, trying to extract meaning, emotion, connection. This is rooted in evolutionary psychology. When a woman is considering a man as a potential emotional investment, her mind starts scanning for consistency, depth, and emotional resonance. So she revisits your words, not because she has nothing else to think about, but because something about you stuck. Most men miss the weight of this. They brush it off, give a quick answer, or worse, they don't even remember what she's referring to. And in that moment, she feels it, the disconnect, because for her, it mattered enough to revisit. And for you, it just passed. A grounded man recognizes this as a window. He leans into it. He expands the thread, maybe adds a new layer to the original topic, maybe playfully challenges her perspective. He keeps the loop alive, and that deepens the connection even further, because now it's not just interaction, it's shared mental space. But this is nothing, absolutely nothing compared to what comes next, because up until now, everything she's done could still be explained away. Maybe she's just friendly. Maybe she's just bored. That's what most men tell themselves to stay safe. But this next shift, this one is different. You feel it, even through a screen. I call it the emotional echo. This is when her messages start to mirror your energy, but with a slight emotional amplification, not exact copying, something deeper. If you're playful, she becomes warmer. If you're calm, she softens. If you tease her lightly, she doesn't just respond, she leans into it. Her tone starts syncing with yours. Her rhythm adjusts to match you. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. Her body is responding too. Her breathing slows when she reads your message. There's a small release of tension in her chest. Her mind lingers on your words longer than it should. Sometimes she rereads them, late at night, when everything is quiet. That's not coincidence. That's her nervous system aligning with yours. Women always move toward emotional coherence. When a man creates a stable, grounded presence, even through text, it activates something deep in her limbic system. Safety mixed with curiosity. And that combination, it's addictive. Picture this. You're texting her in the evening, nothing intense, just a light exchange. You say something slightly teasing, but calm, no neediness, no pressure. She pauses before replying, not because she's unsure, but because she's feeling it. Then her message comes in, softer, slightly longer. Maybe she adds a detail she didn't need to share. Maybe there's a subtle compliment hidden inside. Her words feel closer. and you can't quite explain why. That's the echo. Most men will miss every one of these signals their whole lives. They'll think attraction is about the perfect line, the perfect timing, the perfect strategy. But you're starting to see what's really happening underneath it all. You're reading her emotional state, not just her words. You're responding to what she feels, not just what she types, and that changes everything. This is exactly what I've seen again and again in my work. Years of studying patterns, conversations, emotional reactions. I'm Luna John, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. When a woman reaches this stage, she's no longer just interested, she's invested. She's thinking about you when she's not texting you, wondering what you're doing, replaying small moments that felt insignificant to you, but meant something to her. And once a woman starts doing that, it's very hard to reverse because now you exist in her internal world. And the way you show up from this point forward either deepens that connection or quietly breaks it. Her guard is lower here, not gone, but softer, more open. She's allowing herself to feel something, and that's a rare moment. Miss it. And she closes again, slowly, silently. You won't even notice it happening, but get it right. And she leans in further than you expected. Her messages become something she looks forward to. Your name on her screen changes her mood. There's a shift in her energy, even before she replies. But there is one final piece, and this one, I almost didn't include it, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, because this final shift, it doesn't just show that she's thinking about you, it reveals that she's emotionally prioritizing you. I call it the open loop pull. Almost no one talks about this. Women feel it, but they can't explain it. And the men who understand it, they stay in her mind for years. This is when she leaves conversations slightly unfinished, on purpose, not ghosting, not pulling away, just not closing the emotional loop completely. She might say something like, "I'll tell you later," or "Remind me to show you something," or even drop a thought that clearly has more behind it, and then disappear for a bit. To most men, this feels confusing, inconsistent, even frustrating. But underneath, it's intentional. Her brain is creating a psychological hook, an open loop. And your mind does the same thing when something is left unresolved. You keep thinking about it. So does she. That's the Zeigarnik effect at play. Unfinished emotional experiences stay active in the mind. Women always do this when they're invested. She wants to extend the connection beyond the moment. She wants you thinking about her the same way she's thinking about you. And if you respond with pressure, "What did you mean?" or "Just tell me now," you break the tension. You collapse the loop. The magic disappears. But a grounded man, he understands the rhythm. He lets it breathe. Maybe he plays along. Maybe he adds his own layer. "Careful. Now I'm curious. I'll hold you to that." Then he steps back. And now, the loop lives in both of you. Let's walk through this one more time, step by step. First, when she reaches out for no real reason, that unnecessary message, that's interest trying to find a doorway. Don't shut it down with dry energy. Meet it lightly. Second, when there's that pause, then she comes back deeper. That's her testing emotional safety. Don't overwhelm it. Match it with calm presence. Third, when she loops back to something you said earlier, that means you stayed in her mind. Expand that thread. Make it feel alive. Fourth, when her energy starts echoing yours, softer, warmer, more aligned, that's emotional sinking. Stay grounded. Don't spike the dynamic with neediness. And finally, when she leaves things slightly open, unfinished, that's the strongest signal of all. She's creating space for you to exist in her thoughts, even when you're gone. Most men go their entire lives never understanding any of this. They keep chasing, forcing, overthinking every word. And they wonder why it never quite clicks, why she fades, why the connection slips away without explanation. But you stayed, you paid attention. You're seeing what most men are completely blind to, and that alone puts you in a different category. If this opened something in you, subscribe and turn on notifications. Next week, I'm revealing something women feel in the first 30 seconds of meeting a man. You do not want to miss that. Comment the word texting below. I read every single one. A woman's words may guide you, but her patterns reveal the truth.